Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. If you love carefully told, text-to-speech friendly deep dives from the world of Turkish entertainment, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Today's story centers on two names that still spark instant conversation years after their breakout, Elçin Sengu and Barış Arduç. The question making the rounds is surprisingly personal. Did Elçin say she's finally ready to marry, and did Barış really urge her not to rush into it? We'll trace the full arc, how the chatter started, why the pressure around marriage became a storyline, how family expectations and old-screen chemistry feed the rumor mill, and what responsible fandom looks like when private choices meet public curiosity. Let's set the stage. Long before the speculation about proposals and timelines, Elçin Sengu and Barış Arduç built a partnership on screen that felt effortless. Banter sharp enough to make you smile, stillness precise enough to make you lean in, a rhythm that turned small gestures into declarations. That chemistry escaped its original frame and found a second life in clips, edits, and subtitled moments traveling across platforms and borders. With that kind of reach, audiences began to carry the pairing in their imaginations. They didn't just want a good episode, they wanted a good ending, for the characters, and, unfairly, for the actors themselves. Into that climate came a handful of remarks, some on the record, others filtered through summaries and translations, suggesting that Elçin Sengu was thinking seriously about the next chapter of her private life. The tone, as retold, was measured, not a wedding countdown, not a staged reveal, but the kind of clarity that arrives when you realize stability can be a decision, not just a result. According to people close to the conversation, family voices played their familiar role. Parents and relatives reminding her that time has a way of slipping, that happiness deserves a home, that waiting can turn from wisdom to habit if you're not careful. None of this is exceptional, it is the quiet soundtrack in many households where love and career both matter. But fans noticed a pattern that made the story louder. After an ex-partner tied the knot, the reminders around Elçin reportedly intensified, again, not as orders, but as nudges. You deserve the same kind of joy, find a person who is right for you, don't measure your life by anyone else's calendar. In parallel, the public memory kept pulling Barış Arduç into the frame, because cultural memory rarely separates a famous duo once audiences have claimed them. Barış, of course, moved on with his life in his own way, and that fact, simple, adult, ordinary, became paradoxically one more ingredient in the audience's recipe for speculation. If his path had been chosen, what did that mean for hers? If a screen partner becomes a symbol of what might have been, how does a private person make a choice without the crowd assigning meaning to every step? The rumor that really accelerated the conversation arrived as a phone call, more precisely, as reports of one. According to the most repeated version, Barış Arduç and Elçin Sengu spoke, and somewhere in that conversation he urged caution. Don't hurry, you're too young to decide under pressure, protect your peace. Was it concern for a friend's well-being? A general principle about big choices? A sentence lifted out of context and stretched across a headline? The truth is that we cannot know exactly what was said, and that simple fact should guide our tone. But we can examine why the claim resonated. Audiences believe these two understand each other's temperaments. A caution spoken by Barış fits the public's image of his measured persona. And any whisper that places them in each other's orbit will always travel farther than a confirmation that they mind their own business. Meanwhile, social media did what it always does, split into camps and write essays in the comments. One camp argued that Elçin has earned the right to want exactly what she wants, marriage, home, ritual, routine, and that no one, not even an old colleague, gets to gatekeep her timing. Another camp insisted that a friend's caution is not control, it is care, especially in an industry where calm advice is rarer than applause. A third camp, made mostly of veteran fans, reminded everyone that grown adults can talk about life without inviting a committee to vote on their decisions, and that the most loving thing outsiders can do is let the people at the center choose their own pace. To understand why family pressure became a subplot here, you have to see how careers and expectations intersect. Both Elçin Sengu and Barış Arduç built momentum by saying yes to work that taught them range and restraint. That kind of focus does not leave much space for public milestones. When family asks, "When will you settle?" it is not always a critique, sometimes it is a shorthand for, "I want you to have an anchor when the world is loud." The internet, however, hears the same sentence and converts it into conflict. A parent's nudge becomes a decree. A personal wish becomes a headline. A private conversation becomes a referendum on autonomy. In this distortion, nuance is the first casualty. There is also a deeper theme worth naming: the way nostalgia tries to script the future. Fans loved Elçin and Barış together on screen, and because their scenes felt honest, audiences try to carry that honesty into their off-screen lives. When Elçin Sengu voices a desire for marriage, some interpret it as an echo of a character's arc. When Barış's arc is quoted as counseling patience, some read it as a continuation of an old dynamic. But reality is messier and kinder. People outgrow old versions of themselves. Advice offered in friendship is often rooted in knowledge that strangers do not have. And most importantly, no one owes us alignment between the roles they played for us and the lives they are building for themselves. Let's pull the camera back and test the story against three grounded possibilities. First, the phone call account could be broadly accurate in spirit if not in syllable. Imagine a conversation where Elçin expresses that she's ready to choose, and Barış responds with the caution of someone who has seen public pressure warp private peace: choose because you want it, not because anyone is counting for you. In that reading, both are right, and the only wrong part is turning a private check-in into a public verdict. Second, the call could be real but misunderstood. The line "you're too young to marry" might have been shorthand for a different idea entirely: you are in the middle of a heavy run of work, and fatigue is the worst time to make a permanent decision. Wait until you can hear yourself think. Professionals who live by schedules know that advice is wisdom, not patronizing. Third, the call might be less pivotal than the rumor suggests. Two friends catch up, trade notes, and move on. The audience takes a half sentence and builds a three-act structure around it. It happens all the time in celebrity culture because silence leaves a vacuum and the internet refuses to leave vacuums alone. Whatever the truth, the stakes are not theoretical. When the public turns a person's private choice into a spectator sport, it reduces a rich life to a scoreboard: marry soon/too soon, wait long/too long, choose right/choose wrong. The better question for viewers who genuinely care is simpler: are we rooting for Elçin Sengu to be happy on her terms? Are we willing to let the fact that she is thinking out loud about marriage be exactly what it is, thinking out loud, without assigning villains or saviors to the frame? And if Barış's arc offered caution, are we adult enough to see caution as care, not control? There is also the industry dimension. Public milestones change the negotiation table, press angles shift, brand offers adjust, travel and set calendars must be rebalanced. Friends who understand that calculus naturally advise moving carefully. But carefully does not mean never. It means protect the center while the edges keep flashing. The wisest path for high-visibility people, one Elçin and Barış have often modeled, is to share less than the internet wants, exactly as much as your sanity allows, and never so much that the work becomes secondary to the narrative about the work. If you're waiting for a dramatic twist, this is the moment where I remind you that grown-up endings look quieter than television taught us. There might be a small ceremony one day, described in a short caption and defended by a wall of respectful silence. There might be a decision to stay private forever about that part of life, while giving the public your best craft on screen. There might be a long engagement with no countdown, because some people prefer to build houses slowly and only invite guests once the doors close properly. All three outcomes are good if they fit the people at the center. So here's where we land. The story began with the idea that Elçin Sengu is ready for the stability that marriage can symbolize, shaped by family voices that want her joy to have a home. It intersected with Barış's arc because history and chemistry almost guarantee that any private moment between them will echo far beyond the room. It gathered speed because fandom loves certainty, and then it arrived at the only place certainty cannot live, the inside of someone else's life. Our job, as an audience that prides itself on maturity, is to let the people we admire keep the parts of themselves that are not for us. Now I want to hear from you, respectfully. Do you think public figures are helped or harmed when they think out loud about milestones like marriage? If a friend told you not to rush a decision because the world is loud, would you hear control or care? And what is the healthiest way for fans to show support when privacy and curiosity collide? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The best conversations on this channel are the ones that hold both affection and restraint. If this analysis helped you see the story more clearly, subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, tap like, and consider joining for members-only deep dives where we focus on craft first, how performances earn their power, how scripts protect silence, and how teams build the kinds of scenes that live longer than any rumor. As always, we'll follow official news if it comes, and we'll do it with the same principle we ask from everyone else: respect first. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.